In the small village of Black Hollow, whispers of the old convent on the hill were enough to send chills down anyone's spine. St. Marietta's convent had been abandoned for nearly a century, its walls cloaked in ivy and shadows. Locals spoke of the sister in white, a ghostly nun who roamed the halls, her face hidden beneath a veil. They said she wasn't a guardian of the convent, but its curse. 20-year-old Eliza knew better than to listen to old wives' tales, but desperation had a way of dulling reason. Her younger brother Sam had been missing for 2 weeks. The last place anyone saw him was near the convent, and no one dared to search inside. Determined, Eliza set out with a flashlight and a single prayer in her heart. The path leading up to St. Marietta's was eerily silent. No birds, no wind, just the sound of her boots crunching the gravel. As she pushed open the heavy wooden door, the scent of rot and cold stone washed over her. The air inside was stifling, thick with an oppressive silence. Dust danced in the beam of her flashlight as she moved cautiously down the hallway. The old paintings of saints on the walls seemed to watch her. Then she heard it, a faint whisper, almost like a chant coming from the chapel. Eliza, a voice called softly, sending shivers down her spine. Her flashlight flickered as she stepped into the chapel. Pews lay in disarray, and the altar was covered in cobwebs. In the center of the room, a nun knelt in prayer, her back to Eliza. Her habit was pristine white, but it seemed to shimmer unnaturally in the dim light. "Excuse me," Eliza managed, her voice shaking. "Have you seen my brother?" The nun's head tilted unnaturally to the side, as though she were listening. Slowly, she rose to her feet. Her movements were jerky, like a marionette on strings. Eliza's breath caught as the nun turned. Her face was obscured by a sheer white veil. Behind it, there was no human face, only hollow eye sockets and a jagged mouth that seemed to stretch impossibly wide. "You shouldn't have come," the nun hissed, her voice layered with echoes. Eliza stumbled backward, but the nun advanced, her feet never touching the ground. The whispers grew louder, filling Eliza's head with fragmented prayers and screams. She turned and ran, but the hallway seemed to stretch endlessly. Doors slammed shut on either side of her, and the walls pulsed as though alive. She burst into a room and slammed the door behind her, gasping for breath. It was a dormitory, filled with rows of dusty beds. On the farthest one lay a figure, a boy, pale and still. "Sam!" she cried, rushing to him. His eyes fluttered open, but they were clouded and unfocused. "She's here," he whispered, his voice trembling. The door creaked open, and the sister in white floated inside. Her veil lifted slightly, revealing a mouth full of jagged teeth. The air turned icy, and the walls began to bleed dark shadows. "Leave him!" the nun screeched, her voice reverberating like a thunderclap. "He belongs to me now." Eliza grabbed Sam's hand, pulling him off the bed. The shadows clawed at them as they stumbled toward the window. With a desperate cry, Eliza threw herself and Sam through the glass. They tumbled down the hill, landing in the cold grass. When Eliza looked back, the convent was gone. In its place was an empty hilltop, the building erased as though it had never existed. Sam recovered, but he never spoke of what he'd seen. Eliza, however, couldn't forget. Every night as she lay in bed, she heard faint whispers and felt a chill in the air. And sometimes, just before sleep claimed her, she saw a flash of white, a veil drifting in the shadows. The locals say the hill is still cursed. If you stand there too long, you might hear the sister in white calling your name, waiting to claim her next visitor.